Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks, as always, for joining us. In the race for U.S. Senate here in Massachusetts, the primaries are in the books, and now it's on to the general election, where incumbent Ed Markey will face a political newcomer, attorney Kevin O'Connor of Dover, who won Tuesday's Republican primary, and he joins us this morning. Mr. O'Connor, welcome and congratulations.
Thank you. Good morning, John.
So, I think the question on a lot of viewers' minds, because of the relatively low profile of your primary, is who are you and why are you running for Senate?
So I am a husband, a dad. I am not a career politician. I'm a trial lawyer. I'm a litigator. So I've been fighting for my clients for 30 years. I went to BC Law. I'm running because I don't want our kids growing up in the kind of dystopian world that some people want to take us to. I believe in straightforward American values, and I want to make sure we have safe streets, safe neighborhoods, good jobs, a good environment, good healthcare, and a strong America.
Give me an example of what you mean by this dystopian world you referred to.
So if you watch the Democratic debates between Senator Markey and Congressman Kennedy, they could never find it within themselves during the whole policing debate. They couldn't muster up the courage to say that cops are good people, they have really tough jobs, and for all their challenges, they may not be perfect, but we owe them a deep debt of gratitude, and they could never do that. And that's because they were pandering to a base. All primaries in our political system promote polarization, and career politicians gravitate toward that polarization every time. I represent a total change in approach. And I'll be able to acknowledge strengths, weaknesses, and work with people across the aisle and across every inch of the state and across every race, ethnicity, religion, everything.
Well, with regard to policing, since you raised the issue, as you know, there's a bill up for debate and perhaps soon a vote on Beacon Hill that would reform the police accountability system, most notably altering the qualified immunity that police accused of crimes enjoy, so that if a police officer demonstrably should have known what they're doing was illegal, they would be subject to a legal exposure on that. Where do you stand on that one?
Well, John, I think that's already the existing law. What the people who want to change qualified immunity want to do is make it so that if it's they want police officers to have to speculate about what would or would not be legal in circumstances that are not clearly established already by case law or statute. And that's just an absolutely wrong message. Our men and women in blue need to know that what is clearly established is clearly established. They are in the line of fire. They are facing life or death situations with both their own lives on the line and the lives of the citizens they protect on the line. And we can't Monday morning quarterback them. And the clearest evidence of the hypocrisy that we're seeing from the career politicians is that they have legislative immunity. So Senator Markey right now wants to preserve for himself immunity from saying anything about anyone that if he criticizes someone and he's completely wrong, he's got legislative immunity. But he doesn't want a cop in the middle of the night in a gunfight to have that benefit of the doubt, the same benefit of the doubt. And that's totally wrong. The other thing I would point out, I was in Malden today at the police station, and I think the Malden police are with me. They know Senator Markey well, and they're with Kevin O'Connor. And they feel like he is completely disconnected from their community. He doesn't communicate with them. He doesn't listen to them. He's not standing up for them.
All right, tell you what, let's take our break. And when we come back, let's focus a little bit more on your differences with Senator Markey. And we'll do that as we continue our conversation with Republican U.S. Senate nominee Kevin O'Connor in just a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back to our conversation with the Republican nominee for U.S. Senate. He'll be facing off with Ed Markey on your ballot in November, attorney Kevin O'Connor. Mr. O'Connor, Ed Markey said the other day he doesn't know much about you, quote, other than the fact that he says he's an ardent Donald Trump supporter, end quote. Is that right?
I'm voting for the president, absolutely, yes.
Well, as you know, the president is not especially popular here in Massachusetts. Last poll I saw had his disapproval ratings up over 75%. How do you propose to win when you're going to be sharing the ballot with President Trump in a state like this?
Well, I think Senator Markey's focus on that issue, that effort to polarize, is exactly why he's so ineffective. He's been in Congress for more than 40 years. He's gotten essentially nothing accomplished. He's big on tagging people with labels, and he's not focused on helping the people of Massachusetts improve their lives. So he can take that bait. I don't care. I've been candid with everyone about how I'll vote, and I've also been candid that I will work much harder than Senator Markey. I'll be out in the communities, just the way Congressman Kennedy indicated Senator Markey should be conducting himself. And the way he's not conducting him. He's failed for the last 6 years to get out in the community, out in the streets, out in the communities, across our state. I will deliver exactly that.
Well, do you have any important differences with Donald Trump?
Oh, I'm a Kevin O'Connor Republican. I am my own person, and so we can focus on any given issue, and I'll give you my position. So I'm not going to do Donald Trump's bidding. I'm not going to do anybody's bidding. I will be the senator fighting for Massachusetts. Ed Markey has spent the last few years focusing on resistance to Donald Trump. I'll deliver results. I won't define myself based on him. And if Joe Biden gets elected, I'll work with Joe Biden. Whereas Ed Markey has promised he won't work with Donald Trump.
Well, you say on your website that you will, quote, stand up to the deficit spenders in both parties, end quote. What does that mean exactly? Does that mean, for instance, you'd be voting against further federal stimulus spending during the pandemic and economic depression?
Not necessarily. So right now, we're in a very difficult financial situation, and we really need to take it step by step. We need to make sure that our economy does not seize up and that we continue to grow. And so there are big differences between the parties. The Democrats wanted a $3 trillion spending bill. I think ultimately the last round of stimulus and support the Republicans ultimately passed with the president's executive order something more along the lines of $1 trillion. And so I support that. I want to make sure our communities are supported, our businesses are supported, and that our economy is sustained. But what Senator Markey wants is just absolutely extravagant spending. John, I don't know if you know, he promised every American, every person in America, not citizen, every person in America, $2,000 a month for stimulus relief dating back to March, above and beyond what they've already been paid. So for a family of four, Ed Markey wants the federal government to pay $96,000 a year for doing nothing. That is totally unsustainable. That is a path to bankruptcy and failure, and every responsible adult knows that. And for Senator Markey to be proposing that is, in my opinion, just outrageous. And I'm going to take that case to everybody in Massachusetts. And I think most people will recognize it's a formula for failure.
Well, Kevin, our time is up, but if voters would like to find out more about you and your candidacy, how can they do that?
So it's KOC for Senate. So K as in Kevin, OC for Senate.com. And that's the best way. And we're on all forms of social media.
Appreciate your time. Good luck. We'll be talking to you down the road.
Thank you, John.
And thank you. And thank you to everyone for watching this morning. Now I'm going to send it back over to my colleagues for more WBZ News.